Hey Pretty Girl Club, welcome to another video. So I'm going to talk about what color is light skin. This is going to be like part 3. I'm also probably going to title this video like what's the darkest shade of light skin or something along those lines. And the reason I'm talking about this is because the light skin community is a big part of this channel. Some of you guys are monoracial and you have a light skin tone. Some of you guys are mixed race and you have a light skin tone. And I've noticed that when you are light skinned and not white passing, like myself, I've noticed that people, they like to try to gaslight you and they like to try to say things like, oh, you're not that light skinned. And the reason people are saying that is because they don't want you to have control over your own self perception. They want to control how you see yourself. And in their mind, they feel like being light skinned is a compliment, whereas being dark skinned equals regular. Obviously, you guys know that I don't agree with that, but this is how a lot of women think if they have an inferiority complex about their blackness or about their skin tone. And so I've noticed that a lot of people, they like to project that onto us. But here on this YouTube channel, we have the right to take control and ownership over our own self-perception and over our own identities. And so we actually started talking on here and we've been gaining intel. There are thousands of us on this channel now, and we've all been talking about our experiences and sharing our Fenty foundation shades. And we noticed a pattern that once you get to about Fenty 390, we actually had a vote on this channel for what we are going to consider the darkest shade of light skinned. And you guys voted on Fenty 390. I think the top 4 shades were like 385, 390, 400, and 410 or something. And so that's what you guys voted on, was Fenty 390. So here on this YouTube channel, if you are Fenty shade 390 and above, we are considering that light skinned on this channel. And the reason we're doing that is because this is, we notice that we all have common experiences when we hit that shade range. That is when people start silencing us from talking about colorism because you're not dark skinned. So you never experienced colorism. You've never been called a dark skinned, unambiguous black woman in your life. Maybe if you get a tan or something, because I do know that some light skins, they can tan into being dark skinned depending on how much they stay in the sun. But I don't judge people's skin tones based off of what it looks like under excessive sunlight, because that's not a representation of what your skin looks like all the time. What does your skin tone look like most of the year? That is your foundation shade, in my opinion. But I already know that non-light skinned people are going to comment on this channel and they're going to be like, why do you care? Nobody cares. And it's so funny how there have been thousands of conversations about colorism and about the dark skinned experience. Lots of people talk about being dark skinned and they talk about what it's like and, all of that stuff. But then suddenly when we are light skinned and we talk about our experiences as light skinned people, then suddenly it's nobody cares. Like, why are you making it your identity? Oh, you know what? Let's just move past this. Let's just all get along now and not talk about skin tones. Nope. Here on the Exoticals United YouTube channel, we have the right to talk about whatever topics we see fit. We have the right to talk about our skin tones, to discuss our skin tones, and we also have the right to call ourselves by whatever skin tone nickname we feel accurately describes our complexion. So if we want to call ourselves golden or peanut butter pecan. My intro on this YouTube channel used to name a whole bunch of positive skin tone nicknames. So if we want to call ourselves by positive nicknames, like, I don't know, yellow, sometimes I like to call myself medium yellow or dark yellow or, just random phrases, or sometimes I will even refer to my skin as rose gold. If we want to call our skin tone whatever shade we want to call it, that is our right. You know why? Because your skin is an organ on your own body. You can't tell me how I should identify my own organs. Like this whole policing thing has gotten out of control. It's like, you want to police the nickname somebody calls their own organs on their body now? Like, what are you doing? It's giving obsessed. But on this channel, I don't identity police others. So obviously, if you want to call yourself by whatever nickname you want, you can. And I've noticed a lot of hypocrisy, especially when it comes to the unambiguous monoracial black community. They love to police who's light skinned and who's not. Have you ever noticed how it's always non-light skinned people and non-mixed race people who are policing who's light skinned and who's not? Or if they are light skinned, it's usually a light-skinned person who identifies as black only. They are monoracial and monocultural. So I've noticed that it's definitely a Blackistan thing to police skin tones or to argue back and forth and call your friends and family members and say, Mama, do you think TT is light skinned? She thinks she light skinned. Oh my God, I can't stand her. Why she thinks she light skinned? She not even that light skinned. And it's like the fact that you are so obsessed with my complexion, that tells me that not only do you have an inferiority complex about your own skin, like you feel like your own skin tone is not light enough, but also you want to project your skin tone inferiority complex onto someone else. And by the way, I don't care what skin tone people want to be. I don't care if people are bleachers. I don't care if people get surgeries and like wear colored contacts and whatever. That's not the part I care about. What I care about is you wanting to do that deep down inside, because I genuinely do feel like some people who are monoracial and unambiguous dark skin, I genuinely do feel like some of them secretly wish that they could bleach themselves to be your complexion. And so because of that, they get jealous, because they didn't bleach themselves or whatever. They're trying to pretend like they're so pro-black, and deep down inside, they're really not. And they really wish that they were your complexion or that they had your confidence about their skin tone. And so they just project onto you and try to make you feel bad or try to make you feel less than. They want you to feel like you are less than someone who is lighter than you. And by the way, when it comes to skin tones, with Fenty shades 300 to 390, first of all, even the Fenty company themselves, they don't even call those shades brown, just so you know. Those shades are tan. That's the tan shade range. But I consider Fenty 300 to 390 to be light skins that are not white passing, like myself. So you've never been mistaken as a white person before. I consider Fenty shades, the 100s and 200s, I consider that to be the white passing, or, quote unquote high yellow to white passing, depending where you are on the scale and depending on your features. But 390 is the darkest shade of light skin that we are claiming on this channel. And by the way, this is just for editing purposes. I know that I'm not the queen of skin tones, or I don't get to decide how other people choose to identify their skin tones. But when you come to this channel, when I use the term light skinned, those are the shades I'm referring to, is Fenty 390 and above, because that's what we all voted on here. That's what you guys have said has been your experience, and you guys, the darkest ones who had that experience, were Fenty 390. But another thing that I've talked about in my What Color is Light Skinned videos is I've noticed how with men can be called light skinned and not be white passing. But suddenly if you're a woman, the black community has to view you as white passing in order for them to call you light skinned. I strongly disagree with that, because number one, why are unambiguous, monoracial, non-light skinned, non-mixed people, non-MGMs commenting on our community and our skin tones? So yes, we are creating our separate subculture here on this YouTube channel. So for those of you who are like, oh, well, you are a part of the black community only. Nope. Guess what? We have the right to dip in and out of blackness at our leisure. You know why? Because you guys in the unambiguous black community have been pushing and pulling us in and out of blackness at your leisure. So we are now keeping that same energy and using this flippity floppity mindset that you guys have projected onto us. We are now using that to our advantage. We have been doing this in the MLS community for decades, and now we are just being open about it. So we no longer have to hide it. We no longer have to pretend like, oh no, I'm super pro-black 24/7. No, we're not, because you guys are not super pro-MLS 24/7. So why should we be pro-black 24/7? That doesn't even make logical sense. And why should we deny our own family members and deny what our hair textures are, or deny our skin tones, all in the name of getting some invisible pat on the back from a social justice warrior or from some hotep guy? No, who cares? It's more important for us to establish an identity for ourselves so that we can talk more about this experience on this YouTube channel. But one of the main humbling tactics that I've seen against women who are light-skinned and you are not white passing is people will try to constantly say, you are not that light-skinned. I've noticed this is a common tactic in the unambiguous black women empowerment space. I've noticed they also use this sometimes over in the hotep spaces. It's basically a blackistan strategy to try to make you feel insecure about your skin tone. They'll say, you're not that light-skinned. It's similar to saying, you're not that pretty. Oh, well, she's not a 10, she's just a 6. Beyonce's just a 6. Rihanna's just a 6. First of all, the fact that you had to go out of your way to try to downplay someone, that proves that they are, in fact, extremely beautiful. So I actually feel the same way when it comes to skin tone. The fact that you went out of your way to say you're not that light skinned, that actually proves that not only is she light skinned, but she's so light skinned to the point where you're actually jealous of her confidence and her potential quote unquote privileges, to the point where you feel the need to call it out because you are hoping that you could just poke away and chip away at her confidence. By the way, you guys know that I do not judge on this channel. I don't judge people's beauty standards or, what they feel is important to them. And there are some people out there where they feel like skin tone privilege. They feel like quote unquote light skin privilege. That is very important to them. I've noticed that the people that don't have light skin privilege, whatever your skin tone is, becomes extremely important to them suddenly because they don't experience that privilege. And so they have that same mindset where they obsess over you. They want to live vicariously through you, but they also simultaneously want to control you. And this is because deep down inside, they want to experience light skin privilege. By the way, when it comes to light skin privilege, it's just like any other privilege. It's hit or miss. It depends on what environment you're in. It's just like pretty privilege, right? Sometimes you will experience pretty privilege and other times you will experience jealousy. It just depends on who the person is and how much they care about your beauty, how much they obsess over your beauty. So the same is true for skin tone. But I have noticed that the ones who police your skin tone and say you're not that light skinned, those are the ones who feel like they haven't experienced any skin tone privileges, or they haven't experienced enough skin tone privileges to the point where they get mad and jealous that you are that confident in your skin tone. Or even if you don't even say anything about your skin tone, this is another thing I've noticed. Like there have been times where I've never even said, as a matter of fact, I don't think I have ever been in an environment and said, oh yeah, I'm light skinned and blah, blah, blah. I don't think I've ever said anything like that. Usually when people bring up my skin tone, it'll be totally random. I'm not even talking about skin tone. I didn't say I'm light skinned or I'm this or I'm that. No, other people are usually the ones who bring this up, and they'll bring it up randomly. And that's because deep down inside, that person deeply cares about who has light skin privilege and who doesn't. And obviously they don't, because if they did, they wouldn't even be making comments like that, because they themselves would be experiencing privileges based on their skin tone. By the way, you guys do know that dark skin privilege is also a thing, right? Think about the positive stereotypes that are associated with dark skin in the sports community I remember even when I was in high school, I was considered dark because everybody's white, right? So I remember even I got recruited onto the varsity track team because I believe it was because of stereotypes about me being, the darkest one or the dark one or the only one that is quote unquote black compared to all of these Nordic white girls. And I wasn't even fast. But that could have been a privilege stacking opportunity for me. I could have used that free varsity track recruitment. I could have used that to train and get a college scholarship. That is actually an example of dark skin privilege. Literally, because I was the only girl that was not white passing and I was the only one that was dark and had, a deeper skin tone compared to everybody else, and I stood out, dark skin privilege actually worked in my favor in that scenario. So there actually can be privileges for many different things. It just depends on what social climbing goals you have. It depends on what your privilege stacking goals are. So I don't shame people on this channel for wanting certain privileges, but I believe that there are only two options. You have to either change yourself to attain the privilege, or you have to accept that XYZ people will always have that privilege over you. So which one's more important? Which one's easier for you to do? Because I actually do not believe that everybody should just accept who they are and accept everything that's been given to them and accept where you're at in life. No, that didn't work for me. So I know that it won't work for other people. For me, when it comes to body privilege, I prefer to have very, very thin. I want to be very thin so I can have as much thin privilege as possible. That's important to me. To other people, they don't care about thin privilege. They just want to have a flat stomach. They just want the privilege of having an hourglass shape, and they're fine. But for me, I care more about one privilege than another. And I've noticed that the people who police skin tones, it's because they care about skin tone privilege more than other privileges. Notice how those people, they tend to not police who has the most wealth privilege in the friend group, or, who has the most social privilege as far as their background. Oh, well, you came from a two-parent home. No, usually people only project and talk crap about the privileges that they want the most. And I've noticed that in Blackistan, usually it is pretty privilege because a lot of people feel like they don't have that, whether it's a woman or a man. Or skin tone privilege is another one. I've heard people talk about texturism, featureism, etc. And usually the people who are talking about those privileges and how unfair they are obviously those who do not have that privilege, or who feel like they don't have enough of that privilege and it's not fair that you have more of XYZ privilege than they do. Like, oh, you have more light skin privilege than me. Well, not necessarily, because again, it depends on your environment. If you are going to an environment where light skin is valued, which I guess would be what, the Black community maybe, or I don't know, depending on where you're from or depending on your overall phenotype, like does your skin tone go well with your hair colors that you're doing? I mean, I know that's one of the things I like about my skin. As far as my undertones, I do like how I can wear very bright blonde colors, like Taylor Swift level of blonde, and it can look cute. So I guess that could technically be a form of privilege because it looks very natural on me. If I have like dark roots and then I go to a super blonde, like Taylor Swift level of blondness with the curls, yes, in my opinion, that is a part of privilege. But I also feel like you don't have to shame others for wanting that privilege. But I have noticed that oftentimes in the unambiguous monoracial Black community, nobody wants to admit when they're insecure. And this is how I know that a lot of people in that community are mentally ill, as well as other communities. But you guys know that Blackness is at the center of all of our identities here. That's what we all have in common. So that is why I talk about the Black community and will continue to talk about Blackness on this channel. So if people don't like it, that's fine. Go ahead and let me know so I can ban you and then I won't pop up in your algorithm anymore. But I actually don't shame people for wanting certain privileges. This channel supports privilege stacking. This channel supports social climbing. When I talk about privilege stacking, that's kind of a term that I made up because that's the best way I can describe it. You get to decide for yourself, okay, what privileges do I feel are most important to me? Do I feel like pretty privilege is important? Do I feel like thin privilege is important? Do I feel like living in a rich neighborhood, is that important to me? Do I really want to live in a big city? Like there are so many different privileges you can choose from in life, or there are different privileges you can choose to pursue in life. Now you may not get every single privilege, but I personally believe that a part of why people are jealous is because they themselves are not leveling up. So I actually feel that jealousy, it's just another emotion. Jealousy is just an emotion. It's just a passing emotion, just like anything else. There is no such thing as a person that is 100% confident all the time. There's no such thing as a person that has never experienced jealousy in their lives. Everybody experiences jealousy, and it can be over random things. It can be over somebody else's body type. It can be over them being a billionaire. It can be over their fame, their career success, how nice their house is, their car, whatever. So skin tone is no different. I've noticed though that some people, they try to pretend so hard that they never get jealous of certain skin tones. And I feel like the people that do that though, they must be jealous of certain skin tones because otherwise you wouldn't be like obsessing over it. You wouldn't be trying to police people with that skin tone and trying to say things like, you're not even that light skin. You're not even that cute. Oh, she's an ugly light skin. She's a mediocre light skin. No, you wouldn't feel the need to say that because you wouldn't be triggered by their light skin, right? If you didn't care that they were light skin, you wouldn't be triggered by it. You wouldn't be angry at the fact that she calls herself butter pecan or golden or buttery yellow. I don't know. You wouldn't be triggered by her calling herself that. I'm not triggered by darker skinned women calling themselves chocolate and saying, oh, I'm so chocolatey. Like, look at my skin. Ooh, it's so cute. I'm not triggered by that. Or even white women who say, oh, I have porcelain skin. I have fair skin. I'm very fair skin. I burn in the sun easily. You know, I have freckles on my face or I have this or that. I don't get triggered by that and say, well, you think you're better than me? No, the only people who say you think you're better than me are people that do think that you are better than them. That's why they're saying that. Because if you genuinely didn't believe that that person was better than you in any way, then you wouldn't even make that comment. So you saying to a person, you think you're better than me, what you're really saying is, I am mad that you have more confidence than me. I am mad that you think you are prettier than how I think about my own self. I am mad that you love your own beauty more than I love my beauty. That makes me feel like you are conceited. Have you ever noticed how when people call you conceited or they call you arrogant and haughty, they never have any actual examples of you being arrogant and haughty? And if they do have examples, it'll be something totally normal that other people say all the time. So me saying, oh, I feel so cute today in my pink dress, that's not being arrogant and conceited. That's just saying I feel cute. It's like, what the heck? Am I not supposed to feel cute? Am I supposed to feel ugly? Like, what is the difference between confidence and arrogance? Because I've noticed that some people, when they describe you as arrogant or conceited, all they start doing is describing you having self-esteem. But anyway, when it comes to skin tone in particular, I really do believe that some people deep down inside, they wish they could be light skinned, or, for whatever reason, they're too scared to like bleach themselves and stuff, which I mean, obviously I understand because obviously that's frowned upon. I'm not telling people to like do that, but there is a reason why the bleaching community is a $1 billion industry. It's because there actually are people out there who are darker skinned who do wish they were light skinned. So to pretend like, oh, none of the darker skinned, unambiguous African people or African Americans, none of them want to be light skinned. Well, no, that would be disingenuous to say that. So don't try to sit over here and pretend like none of you guys can wish that you had a lighter skin tone, because obviously you do if you are going out of your way to put down and invalidate people with that skin tone, and if you're obsessing over people with that skin tone, and if all of your beauty icons have that skin tone, or if you feel like you're ugly because you do not have that skin tone, or if you complain about guys who prefer to date that skin tone. All of that just sends me the message of, okay, obviously she really wants to, she associates that skin tone with having more pretty privilege or having more of XYZ dating options, whatever. And so, in my opinion, like I said, you have two options. You can either change yourself to have that skin tone, you change yourself to meet that standard, or if you don't want to go down that route, because I understand why people wouldn't, then you have no choice but to accept, okay, I will always be lower than these people in terms of this privilege. I will never have access to XYZ privilege. Like for me, I will never be a person who comes from old money, ever. I'll never be that because I was not born in a family like how the Kardashians are, or people like that, where it's like your dad is a multi-millionaire and like your family is, you have $1 billion family. I will never have that privilege. And I've accepted that. But I guess that's something I can't change. But I know that for me personally, any privileges that I feel like I even have a small shot at, I will try to go for it. I try to go for whatever privileges I can. I try to privilege stack as much as possible. So yes, if that means getting a plastic surgery, like when I'm older, if my face gets all saggy or something, because I don't want to look like a Mrs. Claus when I get older. So yes, when I get older, I am going to have to pay money so that I can make my face not sag, or I may have to pay money for dentures if my teeth fall out, because those privileges are important to me. That is a better option than me going around making fun of women who had facelifts and making fun of women who have straight teeth, because I've even noticed where old ladies, they will make fun of old ladies who had facelifts or old ladies who have Botox and stuff. They'll make fun of that. And this actually relates to the colorism thing, because anytime somebody makes fun of you for calling yourself light-skinned, or they make fun of you for embracing your light skin tone, it's because they're jealous of it. That's 100% what it is. Nobody can convince me otherwise. Anytime somebody makes comments like you're not that light skinned, they are jealous of your confidence in your skin tone, and they want to subconsciously make your confidence go down. Why else would you say that comment? Like seriously, what good reason does somebody have to randomly tell someone else you're not that light skinned? It's only to invalidate you. The only reason people would ever say that is because they want to invalidate you. They want to invalidate your identity. They want to invalidate your skin tone, whether they realize it or not. But what do you ladies think? Do you think there are people out there who wish they were light skinned and that's why they get mad that you are light skinned? Or do you think there are women out there who wish they had access to quote unquote light skin privilege, whatever that means to them, and they feel like maybe you have access to it or you have more of it than them, and so then they get mad? What do you ladies think? Because I feel like there's a reason why the bleaching industry is a $1 billion industry. And to pretend like nobody wants to be lighter skin, or like nobody wants a golden skin tone, nobody wants a caramel skin tone, to pretend that that doesn't exist is extremely disingenuous. What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.